Alright guys, I am back with my review of this week's WWE Monday Night Raw for March 3rd, 2014. And this was the big Hijack Raw show from Chicago. CM Punk was not on this show. Good! I honestly don't want to see him back after he acted like a huge baby and left. I mean, I don't care to see him back. And I've said many times that his work these past few months hasn't been anything spectacular anyway. So they start the show with his music, and Paul Heyman comes out. And he starts talking about CM Punk and how CM Punk was a Paul Heyman guy. We've heard this 1,000 times already. So for me personally, I thought it was boring as fuck. But the fans wanted to chant CM Punk, and this was a way to get it out of their system, I guess. So they were chanting Punk, then Heyman starts talking about The Undertaker and how Brock's the only man who can defeat him. Brock comes out, and he actually talks. He speaks for himself here, instead of Heyman doing all the talking, and I thought he did a good job with this. He says The Undertaker is afraid of him, and he's going to succeed where so many others have failed. And he goes to leave, and then Mark Henry comes out. And Brock just says, some people don't learn, do they? And he beats the crap out of Mark Henry and puts him through the announce table. And he throws a monitor into the crowd. Something else about this Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar segment they just did. I was really disappointed to see that Heyman had cut off that sleazy ass ponytail he's had for years. Now he looks just like any other old guy, but that ponytail really made him look like a slime ball. And now that it's gone, it just, I don't know, it doesn't feel like the same Paul Heyman to me. So that kind of sucked. But then it's the Usos versus the New Age Outlaws. And the match itself wasn't that great or anything, but Jey Uso hits the splash on Billy Gunn, and the Usos are the new tag team champions. I was surprised they did this on this show. To be honest, there was some great stuff on this Raw. The Wyatt family versus The Shield was pay-per-view quality, and I couldn't believe that all these people were saying, oh, we're going to hijack Raw, and WWE actually went out there and gave them some pay-per-view quality matches to these ingrates. It's Big E versus Cesaro, and this was decent stuff. Swagger gets upset again. He runs in, hits the Swagger bomb on Big E. So Cesaro's like, what the hell, you just got me disqualified again. They're arguing. Swagger gets pissed and leaves. Then Big E hits the big ending on Cesaro, of all people, which I thought really made Big E look like a bitch. And the fans booed him, which is not what the WWE wants. Then it's the Wyatts versus The Shield. This match was awesome. Really enjoyed this match. Seth Rollins is reaching for a tag, and his partners are not in his corner. So later on, when Ambrose, who kicked ass in this match, definitely showed what he can do. When Ambrose is reaching for a tag, Rollins leaves, and he walks up the ramp. And eventually Bray Wyatt hits the Sister Abigail and Ambrose for the win. Now, I've already watched SmackDown, where Rollins explains his actions, and it does make sense. But my initial reaction when I watched this was, what the hell is Seth Rollins doing? Because it would be one thing if he was angry and like, screw you two, I'm leaving. But instead, he's standing on the ramp acting all conflicted. Well, I mean, if you're that conflicted, why not confront your friends backstage instead of during a match and watching them get their asses kicked? But on SmackDown, he explains how he did what he did so that Ambrose and Reigns would be forced to work together. And I thought that was a pretty good story. Backstage, Batista says that the Yes Movement is possibly the dumbest thing he's ever seen in his life. Then it's Santino and Emma versus Summer Rae and Fandango. And I do not give a shit about this feud, but to me this felt like the blow-off. I mean, where do they go from here? But Emma gets the, oh god, what's it called? The Emma lock on Summer Rae, and Santino and Emma win the match. Then, what happens next? Then it is Christian versus Sheamus. And the announcers have actually moved on to making fun of Christian's physique. So before they were just talking about how ugly he is, now they're talking about how skinny he is. He's got to hear this, right? Someone has to be telling him how much they're burying him on commentary. Like Edge or somebody he's friends with has to watch the show and say, man, why are they talking about how ugly you are every single week? But Sheamus is the bro kick for the win. It's the Bellas versus Oksana and Alicia Fox. This was a bad match. Nikki Bella hits her torture rack backbreaker on Alicia Fox for the win. Then Daniel Bryan comes out. He still wants a match with Triple H at WrestleMania. So Triple H and Stephanie come out. Massive heat for these two. And Triple H says that the match is not going to happen. Daniel Bryan is B+, which is still pretty good, but he's not an A+ player like himself. And Stephanie says her family is the only reason Daniel Bryan has the Yes movement and has t-shirts to sell and is anyone. And Daniel Bryan says, well, maybe I should wrestle you instead of Triple H. And Triple H says, I'm 90% sure she would kick your ass too, which was a great line. And they tell him to get out of the ring. Bryan refuses. Kane comes down. Bryan attacks him. And then Triple H and Stephanie have security, I guess, pull Bryan off of Kane and then tell him to leave. I mean, he's not escorted out of the building or anything. He still has a match later, but they wanted him out for this segment. And this was a hell of a segment. I really liked this. It's Dolph Ziggler versus Del Rio. Dolph comes out with Aaron Paul, better known as Jesse from Breaking Bad. And he's driving a car. He's there to promote this Need for Speed movie. I will never watch that movie. I don't care about car movies. I've never even watched an entire Fast and the Furious. So, what happens here? Aaron Paul is on commentary. He gets on top of the table, distracts Del Rio. Dolph hits the zigzag for the win. Then we find out that Paul Bearer is the next inductee into the Hall of Fame this year. And I think it's a great pick. I know a lot of us probably expected this one. I assume his family is going to induct him, but it would be really cool if they could have like Mick Foley and Undertaker and some guys like that at least say something for Paul Bearer if they're not going to induct him. It's supposed to be Jack Swagger versus Big E, but Cesaro just runs in immediately and hits the neutralizer on Big E, getting Swagger disqualified. So Swagger and Cesaro are kind of butting heads, and Cesaro gets ready to swing Swagger, and then Zeb stops him, says they're brothers, and makes them hug it out. So definitely going to split these two up soon, probably have their match at WrestleMania. Then John Cena comes out. He's talking about his injury, the Wyatt family. The Wyatts come on the Titantron and cut a promo about Cena, how they're going to put him down or something. I don't know. This was boring. Then Alexander Rusev comes out again, just to stand there. And I like his manager, but whenever she comes out, I just think, my name is Borat. And then we see Batista on his way to the ring, and Randy Orton wishes him luck. It's Daniel Bryan versus Batista. Randy Orton is on commentary. A lot of stuff went down in this match. I'm going to try to remember it all. So the Authority comes out to watch. Batista throws Daniel Bryan into Randy Orton. So Orton gets in and attacks Bryan, disqualifying Batista. Then he tries to RKO Batista. Batista pushes him. Bryan hits him with the flying knee. Then Kane gets on the apron. Daniel Bryan kicks him off and gets speared by Batista. The Triple H is talking shit to Daniel Bryan. Bryan kicks him in the head, and then Triple H pedigrees him. And Stephanie, Triple H, and Kane are standing over Daniel Bryan, and Stephanie's doing the yes chant mocking him, and then she stops, and then Triple H is like, keep going. So she starts doing it again. And that was the end of the show. This was an alright show. I'd say it was slightly above average. You had new tag team champions. Brock Lesnar killed Mark Henry again. The Wyatts versus The Shield was awesome. Sheamus versus Christian was decent. I do like that feud. So yeah, this was an alright show. So that's my review. Hope you guys liked the video. Leave your thoughts on the show in the comments, and thanks for watching.